Stephen Tay, welcome to the show. So great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
All right, why don't we kick this off by you quickly introducing yourself and just sharing a little bit about your background and how you came to found Dub.
Sure. So my name is Steven. I was a developer advocate at Vercel for the last 2.5 years, where it was actually where I first found out about Prisma and fell in love with the framework and how you can easily use it to interact with the database. And I really enjoyed the TypeScript, the type safetiness that Prisma provides. So yeah, when I was there, I think around a year or so into my time at Vercel, I started building this side project called Dub. It was actually based on the internal need that we had, which was the ability to share links on social media platforms like X, like LinkedIn, or iMessage with really nice preview OG images, open graph images. And it started with a very niche need that we had, but eventually it blossomed and grew beyond just that into a full link management platform. And I've been just maintaining on the site nights and weekends. Over time, started getting some paid users. And as I started talking to a lot of our users, I realized that there's a huge potential to a link management platform beyond just shortening links. There is the idea of using it for affiliate tracking, using it for to build link sharing features in your application. So I think so. In December of last year, I basically left Vercel and I started a company around Dub. And yeah, the goal is to build the link management infrastructure for companies to easily create link sharing features, marketing campaigns, or affiliate programs. So here we are.
That is super cool. And that basically already answers my next question, because I kind of wanted to know, okay, how did you come up with the idea? What was the origin story? But it's so cool that this was a side project that you did while you were working at Vercel, born out of a need there and then turning it into a company. What was that decision process like to make that step from being an employee at Vercel, which is a great company as well, to then say, okay, I'm just going to give it all up and go that risky route and work on Dub full time?
That's a great question. I think it was a very hard decision personally because I really enjoyed my time at Vercel. I got to have a lot of autonomy, build really cool side projects that people enjoyed and learned from. And but at the end of the day, I realized that I'm a founder at heart. Even before joining Vercel, I was actually about to start my own company, and it was through conversations that I had with Guillermo, which is the founder of Vercel, where I eventually decided to start my career at Vercel instead. And looking back, it was a fantastic decision. It was the best decision I could have made at the time, and I've grown a lot. And now the sort of the turning point for me was realizing that two things: that the potential behind Dub to become like a $1 billion company, and secondly, I realized that if I don't leave now, I probably never will, because I'm so comfortable and in my comfort zone when I'm at Vercel. So yeah, that's sort of like what drew me to eventually just rip the band-aid off and start something from scratch.
Amazing. Before we talk about the tech stack, I want to linger a little bit on that point that you mentioned, the potential for Dub to become a $1 billion company. It started as just a link shortener. Tell me and the audience where you see the potential for it to really grow and explode.
So with Dub, it obviously it started as a link shortener. Funny thing is, when I first started Dub, I had no intention of turning it to a $1 billion company. I thought it would be a good, lifestyle business that would generate a decent amount of revenue every month. But as I started to talk to our customers, and I realized that people were actually using it way beyond just link shortening. They were using it for large scale marketing campaigns. They were using to track affiliate conversions and a lot of advanced use cases. And funny thing is, the affiliate space is actually a space that I'm deeply intimate and familiar with because of a previous project that I was working on before I joined Vercel. It was called One Word Domains. It actually also uses Prisma. But the project was basically just a platform of available one-word domain names for people to register and use it for their new company, project, startup, whatever. And I used when I was building one-word domains, I would partner with registrars such as GoDaddy and Namecheap, and they would use all these like legacy, really clunky affiliate management software that is just a terrible experience to integrate and to use to track earnings. So I thought to myself, there's a huge void in the unfilled need in this space that is ripe for disruption. So I thought, with Dub, I'm planning to take it towards this direction, and that's how the master plan is to turn it into $1 billion company. So yes.
That's amazing. I'm certainly wishing you all the best of luck for it. Let's start diving a little bit into the tech stack. How did you initially kind of pick the technologies that you build up with? And maybe it's a bit of an obvious question because I guess it's built on Next.js and you used to work at Vercel. So I guess
Mhm.
that was an obvious choice. But what other tools and libraries are you using that may be relevant?
Of course. So Dub's initial tech stack was Next.js, Tailwind, Prisma, MySQL, PlanetScale for the database,
Mhm.
and Redis on Upslash. Over time, I added TinyBird, which is fantastic for time series databases. But yeah, Prisma has always been the go-to because of its superior developer experience as well as type safetyness when it comes to interacting with the database. And we really wanted a project that's a code base that's easily maintained and has a lot of type safetyness without basically will make sure that like the any future additions to the code will be type safe and there won't be
Yeah.
any unintended bugs or errors that would come up.
Sure. I think the type safety there especially helps if you consider turning Dub into like a real company with a lot of employees. Eventually, there'll be an engineering team,
Mhm.
and you're now setting the foundation for the success of that engineering team by making sure that the code is type safe, that it's properly
Exactly.
structured, and these kinds of things. So that's also really great to hear.
100%. Yeah.
One question I like to ask our guests, I'm always curious, kind of, what is your Prisma story? Do you even recall how did you hear of Prisma for the very first time and how did you get exposed to it? How did you start using it for the first time?
I believe the first time I've ever interacted or heard about Prisma was when I was refactoring one word domains, my previous startup, over to Next.js. And in the past, I was actually using a very interesting stack. It was actually the stack that I started out with when I learned web development. And it was basically a Flask backend.
Hmm.
Flask is a Python framework. And the front end was just HTML and jQuery. And
Hmm.
to interact with the database, I would use raw SQL queries. I would craft them inside Flask itself. I believe
Hmm.
they had a feature for you to do like tag literals and stuff like that. But it was always
Hmm.
very I've always felt very what's the best way to put this? It has always felt very filmy to me. Like it was something
It
that
feels brittle, right? If you
exactly, bro.
this feeling of SQL inside of a tag template string, it just feels brittle.
Exactly. I was worried that, there would be SQL injections and stuff like that. And at the
Yeah.
time, I was a very novice programmer. So I was like, what do I do to make this as type safe as possible? And at the time, I didn't even know about TypeScript, which is funny. But over time, as I started migrating one word domains over to Next.js and Vercel and PlanetScale, I realized that it's important to use an ORM that is type safe and can interact with the database in a serverless approach as well. So that's
Mhm.
how I found out about Prisma, and I really enjoy the ability to do a lot of really cool advanced SQL queries such as group by and just basic ones like find unique and find many. That's
Mhm.
always been something that I feel like that's something that I can recite by heart now as I have been using it so much. That's basically my Prisma story and how I found out about Prisma.
It's great how the Prisma client API has been ingrained in your mind, basically.
Exactly. And also, I forgot to mention the Prisma Studio has been a game changer, especially when you want to just quickly edit data instead of having to integrate with like something like Retool or I don't know, like an internal database management system. You can just use Prisma Studio, and
Mhm.
it's really cool how you can just filter, sort, edit data, and everything you need, especially from an administrative perspective. If you want to like debug customer issues, add a new customer, delete a customer. It's just one line, just click and then delete. It's been super seamless. That's
Mm,
another great thing.
that's great to hear. All right. Like, I'm always curious, how has your experience with Prisma been so far? And have there been any rough edges that you recall having come across where you maybe needed to like figure out a tricky workaround or like some of the limitations of Prisma? I'm always curious, especially as a developer advocate, to know what experiences people have with Prisma that kind of deviate from the happy path. I don't know if you can share anything there, or if the experience just overall has been so smooth that nothing comes to mind.
Yeah, I can think of a one example. I think it was when it comes to filtering on underscore counts when you're doing like a complex counts query where, for example, if you have a users table and each user has multiple posts, you want to do like fetch all users that have 5 or more posts. You will need something a little bit more complex. You cannot just do, include underscore count where number equals 5 or larger. That's something that has been interesting in the past. I would have to do like some just JavaScript in the back end to like filter that out. But overall, it's been really, really powerful to be able to perform complex queries using Prisma. And especially when it comes to like update many, updates, updating data bulk. I think another one that I can think of is you cannot update many with different criteria. It can only be one single criteria and update them. Although you can also use Prisma transactions for that. So that's another one I can think of. But overall, it's been really amazing to see the framework grow and mature over time. I remember there was a point in time where performance was an issue, but I think with JSON protocol, and now you don't even need JSON protocol, it's default. The performance gains have been spectacular over the years. And I'm very excited to see the future and where you guys are headed.
It's also great to hear, and I think I can also very much relate to that point about in some cases that the Prisma client API doesn't allow you to express precisely what you would like to now ask the database, right? Because like at some point it's still an abstraction on top of SQL. Maybe it can get you 90% of all of your use cases, of all your queries, but then there will be inevitably some situations where you'll just need to drop down to raw SQL, either because indeed the Prisma client API just isn't capable of performing that particular query yet, or maybe you want to optimize a particular query as well. And in these cases, you can still drop down to raw SQL. And like I've recently come across a package from our community. I'll also put the link in the description of this video. It's an amazing package. It's a Prisma client extension. So it essentially integrates natively with your Prisma client instance, and it uses the Keysly API. Keysly is a type-safe SQL query builder as well. That's also very popular in the Node and TypeScript ecosystem, but it uses SQL as an abstraction. So you're building SQL queries in TypeScript. And usually when you would need to drop down to raw SQL with Prisma, you just have the same situation that we talked about before. You have the query raw command where you have to pass this SQL string into Prisma client, which is not type safe at all. Using the Keysly Prisma extension, you can use Keysly's query builder API to compose your SQL query and submit it through Prisma client. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get the type safety from from TypeScript, you get the API from Keysly, and you get still to use your Prisma client instance, so that you don't have to actually switch out the entire tool just because of like one or two queries that you need to be a bit more flexible with.
That's incredible. I didn't know about this. I just found it on GitHub as well. I didn't know about this extension. That's really cool. I really admire that you guys have built this modular extensions infrastructure where people can just build extensions and basically improve the features and functionalities of the Prisma client. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna take a look at this one and see how we can use it for our project as well.
Awesome.
Super cool.
All right, Stephen, I would like to take a look at the code base with you and also just see what Dub actually looks like. Would you care maybe sharing your screen and then we take a look at things together?
Of course. Yeah, let's do it. So let's dive into Dub's code base. By the way, all of our code base, we're a fully open source company. So all of our code is open source under our GitHub repository. You can go to dub.sh/GitHub. You can find all the code there. Let's quickly walk through our Prisma schema. As you can see here, we are using MySQL for the database, and we have a
Mm-hmm.
users table, and each user can have different projects. And this is a many-to-many relation. It's mapped by the project users table. You
Mm-hmm.
can have a role for each user. It could be a member, it could be an owner. And there's obviously the unique IDs for each of them, as well as their creation dates. And then we
Mm-hmm.
also have a unique constraint because a user cannot be part of different. Sorry, we have a unique constraint for the user ID and project ID because you cannot have duplicate users within a single project. Going to the project table, we can see that there are different attributes. There's the name, the slug, which is what shows up in the URL, the logo, the plan that the project is on. There's the free plan, pro plan,
Mm-hmm.
business, and enterprise, and the Stripe IDs for tracking the subscriptions, as well as the when their billing is started on. Honestly, this is a little bit hacky. We just have like a billing start date for us to be able to do billing cycle restarts in our database to restart their to basically refresh their usage statistics. And here
Fair
you can
enough. I
see
appreciate the transparency.
exactly it works. So I'm not complaining. So here you can see there are a bunch of like usage statistics that are linked to a particular project. There's the links usage for this is actually the clicks. I know it's a little not very verbose right now. We're too lazy to change the column names because
Mm-hmm.
we don't want any unintended consequences. So yeah, that's the clicks, domains, tags, and users. Our basic usage statistics there. And then this is something that we're actually working on for Prisma, which is sneak peek. It's a link monitoring feature. I was working with Petra to figure it
Mm.
out. It's a little bit
Great.
behind schedule, but we're gonna get it prioritized soon. It basically gives you a way to monitor your links and get notified when any of them is broken or throws a 500 error, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so each project will have multiple users. They can also send out invites to their colleagues and invite them. Here are just more relations that we have to other tables that we have in our schema. And I'm gonna talk about two more tables. That
Mm-hmm.
are crucial to what Dub is. There's the domains table, which is basically users on Dub. You can actually add up to 3 custom domains on free projects, and then if you upgrade to Pro, you can add more custom domains. But this basically allows you to create short links that are branded to your company. So, for example, Prisma,
Mm-hmm.
instead of using prisma.io, you could use something, instead of using the default dub.sh links, you can use something like pris.ly, which is what you guys are
Yes,
using for
that's our
for
short link.
domains. So yeah, for domains, we have several different attributes, but basically what this summarizes to is it talks about the destination URL. If you're redirecting this to a URL of your choice, if there is a project that's associated with, if this is the primary domain for that project, and a few other attributes. And then there's the
Mm-hmm.
link table, and this is the key one. This is basically um, the links that are on Dub. So each link on Dub is a row in the links table, and obviously there's the fields like domain, the key of the link, which is whatever comes after the slash, and then the URL, which is what it redirects to, if the link is archived or not, the expiry date, password, proxy, which is a lot of our advanced features that come after. These are all the advanced features. We also do
Right.
device targeting for iOS, Android, etc.
Mm.
Link cloaking is also another feature. And here are just the stats. And also, if you can share the stats publicly with any external partners, that's also another feature that we have. And links are also connected to the tags table, which is tags are a way for you to organize and manage your links on Dub. We can take a look at that in a second. But here is basically our Prisma schema. So moving on to let's take a look at a sample Prisma query that I'm a huge fan of.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a route that's called /API/links/count that basically allows us to count the number of links that a project has. And we can also do group by, which gives us the ability to give us the ability to filter those counts and group them
Mm-hmm.
by a domain, group them by a tag, whatever. So here you can see we have a get links count function that returns a Prisma query. It uses the group by function,
Mm-hmm.
and depending on what group, which it could be a group by domain, group by tag ID. That basically gives you a way to get the count, get the number of links that each domain has or each
Mm-hmm.
tag is associated with. It's I'm not going to go too in detail here, but basically it also allows you to filter by whatever query parameters that is being defined in the URL, and return the count. So all of this will become a bit more obvious once we take a look at the UI. So which is what we're going to do right now.
Yeah, let's take a look over what the main workflows look like and what Dub essentially as an application actually looks like.
Here is an example of a Dub workspace. So this is my personal one. Here you can see on the left, we have a bunch of filters. And as you can see, the count for these filters, if I zoom in a little bit, the count for these filters are actually obtained through the group by function that we were looking at earlier. So you can filter by a particular, let me zoom back out actually. You can filter by a particular domain, and you can also filter by a particular tag. As you can see here, all of these counts are updated in real time.
I
And on
see.
the
So these configuration options that you're clicking on in the UI here, these are the options that are being fed into that group by query that we just saw in your VS Code, right?
Exactly. All you need for
Right.
that group by query, we can actually take a look at the network requests in the
Mm-hmm.
network tab. So if I refresh it, you can see that, oh, it does not zoom in on the network tab. Never mind. That we have a link link counts. Here you can see there are multiple, multiple API requests that are being made. There's the one that's the group by. So all you need to do is pass in the project slug,
Right.
which is the unique identifier, and then group by a particular domain that you need, and
Mm-hmm.
group by tag ID. So in this case, we're gonna, for example, if we do, I don't know, we're gonna filter by the main domain, and you can see that now we're doing more group by count with the particular domain that is being filtered. So domain is right here, and then the group by is for the domain, and then there's another one for the tags. So
That's
all of
really
this,
great. And also, like, it's great to follow kind of how the UI that we're seeing here translates into the code that we saw in your editor before was precisely that API route that we're hitting. We saw the how the Prisma client query was composed, what's
yep.
being sent to the database, and then we're seeing the result returned back through the API route in the UI.
Exactly. And you can also sort, which is another cool Prisma feature, by the
Mm-hmm.
number of clicks and which clicks were last clicked on. And all of this will be reflected in the previous like group by queries as well. If you're filtering it by a specific tag, it will also update the group by query because we're using basically on the client side, we're using SWR. Just quickly show that, but it's basically a React hook that would allow you to do easy data
Mm-hmm.
fetching as the query parameters updated. And it's really handy when paired with Prisma and Next.js. So yeah, that's a quick little primer to how the client side, at least, of that works. But yeah, hope that was helpful.
That's fantastic. All right. I think we have a great overview of the app, of the code base. What is next for Dub? What are kind of the next steps that you're planning for it?
That's a good question. We're planning to do a launch week in February where we're going to launch a few long-awaited features that our customers have been asking for. Not going to
Mhm.
spoil too much of that. We're going to announce that pretty soon.
For that.
But so the main priority is getting that launch week ready. And then alongside that, we're also going to be working on uh, basically the MVP of our affiliate management solution. And that will allow you to bring on advocates for your product and have them sell Prisma for you. And that's something that actually going to be working closely with Petra as well as Nitin on to understand what sort of needs that you guys have for something like that. And that's something that I'm also very excited for because that would basically unlock the next step, the next level of growth for Dub, as well as allowing us to partner closely with our existing users as well as new ones as well. So yeah, those are the two.
That sounds great. Stephen, before I let you go, is there anything that you still want to share with our audience where they can find you online, how they can contribute to Dub, what kind of contributions you would like to see? Anything really?
Of course, you can find me online on either Twitter or LinkedIn. It's just my name, Stephen Tay, one word on both. And for Dub, you can find our repo. It's fully public. We actually recently moved from my personal GitHub to an organization. That was interesting. I'm very excited to finally have that be like a legit company repo, which is nice. It's the short URL for that is just dub.sh/GitHub. You can take a look at some of the open issues. If there are any ones that you're interested in tackling, feel free to create a PR. We're more than happy to review it. And I wanted to give a shout out again to Prisma. I think it's been a huge foundation for Dub itself that wouldn't have existed without the type safetiness that Prisma provides, as well as the massive community behind Prisma. That's also a big factor as well, because we've gotten a lot of amazing contributions because people are familiar with the way our code base works thanks to Prisma. So yeah, just wanted to give a shout out to that. And a cherry on top is Prisma was one of our earliest supporters. I think Petra and a few others helped migrate the pris.ly links over from like a homemade setup that you guys had over to Dub. And I think you guys are still the first and only customer story that's on our marketing site. I'm planning to add more, but you guys are the first one. So thank you for that.
That's amazing. And we'll, of course, put all of the links also in the video description so people can find it there. And with that, yeah, thank you so much, Stephen. Thanks for joining me today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Cheers.